dollar cassis that we sneak in from Oakville. The Solo is quite a different animal. The Stag's Leap ranch that we're on was first planted in the 1870s by a fellow named Abel McFarlane. And in fact, Stag's Leap was known, the area was known, what would it be now, 30 years ago or more, as McFarlane Vale. And if anybody's been driving, if you go driving through Stag's Leap, just before you get to the Sinsky winery, on the right-hand side of the road is this little red schoolhouse, and that was this kind of the town center and the community center of McFarlane Vale. McFarlane was an interesting guy, and kind of shows our wild, wild west, history in Napa. He had up in Calistoga, like a lot of folks, he had a silver mine, and he was all over the newspapers one year because over winter they stopped mining, and then they'd go up, in spring and restart the operation. And he sent his foreman up there to restart the operation, and they discovered that somebody was actually occupying the mine. It wasn't Robert Louis Stevenson. It was somebody who was actually interested in mining, and so was squatting and claimed his right to the mine since he'd spent the winter there. So the foreman came back and promptly informed Abel that there's really nothing he could do. There was a very bad man up there. And so Abel thought about it for a little bit and got his guns and went up there and shot the guy. And was acquitted about 2 days later, because obviously, that's justified, right? I mean, this is... yeah, absolutely. He liked mining. He tried his hand at it a couple of times. He actually, at the ripe old age, for the time, I think, of 67, he decided to go up for the Alaskan gold rush. And, of course, if any of you know that history, most of the boats that got all the way up to Alaska got there just a little too late. The rush had already played itself out. And unfortunately for Abel, the boat that he bought, well, fortunately it got him all the way up there, but it didn't quite get him to shore. And it actually sprang a leak and sank. And he swam to shore and found his way back to Napa about a year later. 3 years after that, he was again in the newspapers because he was out hunting, and apparently was trying to wrestle his dog and open a gate on his property as he was carrying a 22-gauge rifle and a 12-gauge shotgun, and both of the guns went off and blew half his foot off. And the Napa Register said, well, this upstanding citizen has every chance of a full recovery if he doesn't become gangrenous. And apparently he didn't, because he died about 10 years later. So Abel was quite a character, and planted the first fruit on our property. It was called Burgunder in the census, and nobody really quite knows what that is. It was probably some sort of Gamay at the time. That's as close to ancient history as we get in Napa. It's not exactly Hadrian's Wall, is it? But anyway, much later on in the 1960s, three guys, Nathan Fay, Dick Stelzner, and a fellow named Harry C. were the first three to plant Cabernet in sort of the modern era in Stag's Leap. And unbelievably, unbelievably now, because Stag's Leap was covered with Cabernet, it was really kind of known for Cabernet. That was actually sort of a radical notion back then. And part of that is sort of the history of California and how it developed. We had this big sort of winemaking business right into the early 1900s. In '06, we had this earthquake in San Francisco, which actually was fairly devastating to the wine business, because all the wines at the time were barreled, made and put in barrel in Napa and then sent on barges. Most of the wine sent on barges to San Francisco, where negociant houses would blend and label the wine under their own names in San Francisco. So that was the business model at the turn of the prior century for wine. So we had all this wine sitting around in San Francisco in these big vats, and the stuff that didn't fall over and smash open as a result of the actual earthquake, a lot of it was used to put out fires. As a result of the earthquakes, most of the water mains broke in San Francisco, and in some areas of San Francisco, whole blocks were saved because they were around big negociant houses, and the firemen just stuck their hoses in the wine and and saved the area. That's all like really terrific, except for that nobody had any insurance, and so there were about 4 vintages that actually got destroyed in the earthquake, and really devastated the business. And that was right off the heels of the first round of phylloxera. We never win those rounds.